descendants of Abraham became very many in Egypt. After many years, Joseph and all his brothers had died. The old Pharaoh had been replaced with another Pharaoh who did not pity the Israelites. The new Pharaoh was afraid of the Israelites because there were so many. He thought they might fight the Egyptians and win. So this Pharaoh made the Israelites work very hard so that many of them would die. The Israelites became slaves and had to obey the commands of the Pharaoh. The hard work did not kill them, but instead God blessed them, and they continued to increase in number. It was happening like God had told Abraham. He said that Abraham's descendants would be slaves for 400 years in another land. The Pharaoh commanded that all the male Israelite babies were to be thrown into the river to drown. It was at this time that one baby boy, named Moses, was born. His parents saved him by hiding him. When they could no longer hide him, they made a basket, put him in it, and put the basket in the river at the edge. The daughter of Pharaoh went to the river to bathe and found the baby. She liked the Israeli baby and wanted to care for him. Pharaoh's daughter asked for an Israeli woman to nurse and care for the baby. An Israelite woman said that she would care for the child, and she kept the child at her house until it was weaned. Pharaoh's daughter did not know that the woman was the true mother of Moses. God had kept Moses from being killed. After Moses was weaned, Moses grew up in the house of Pharaoh. He became a respected government official. God had kept Moses from being killed because God had chosen Moses to lead his people out of Egypt and back to Canaan, just as he had promised to Abraham. Satan can oppose God's plans, but Satan cannot defeat God. When Moses was about 40 years old, he visited the place where his people, the Hebrews, lived. He saw that they were forced to work very hard for the Egyptians. As he was watching, he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of Moses' people. Moses looked around to see if anyone was watching him. When he saw no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid the body in the sand. Then Moses became very afraid because the Pharaoh wanted to have him killed. So Moses fled to a place in the desert called Midian. Moses stayed in the desert for 40 years. One day, as Moses was in the desert taking care of sheep, he saw a bush burning, but it was not being consumed. As Moses approached the burning bush to see why it was not being consumed, God spoke to Moses from the burning bush. God said, "Take off your shoes, because the place you are standing is holy." He told Moses that he was the God of Moses' father and the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. God then told Moses of his plan to deliver the Israelites from their enslavement. God told Moses to go to Pharaoh and tell him that God wanted Pharaoh to free the Israelites. God also told Moses that Pharaoh would not listen to him immediately, but God would give Moses power to do miracles so that Pharaoh would know Moses had been sent by God. Then the Egyptians and the whole world would know that there was only one true God. Although Pharaoh did not know God, God knew Pharaoh and how Pharaoh would respond to Moses' request. God knew what Pharaoh was thinking and planning to do. The Israelites had been slaves for 400 years, but God had not forgotten his promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So God was sending Moses to lead the Israelites from Egypt. God never changes. When Moses heard God's plans, he was afraid. God reminded Moses that God is the all-powerful one who controls everything. God told Moses that he would help Moses. God also allowed Moses to take his older brother Aaron with him to help talk to Pharaoh.